6, we're back again. Kristi and Katie, your crime time friends. Stories, justice, laughs collide. True Crime Squad, come join the ride. Grab the clues, let's take a stand. For victims' voices, hand in hand. True Crime Squad, it's time to shine. Season 6, your turn, your time. True Crime Squad, where justice meets hilarity.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the True Crime Squad. This is Katie Weaver. I'm here with my sister, co-host and partner in crime, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey everybody. How's it going?
Well, it's going.
Sanders is here with us.
Very good.
It's going. It's been
Ugh.
quite a weekend, hasn't it?
It has been a weekend. I have a head cold, so I'm in that spot where your eye wants to water all the time. So if it seems like I'm crying all the way through this show, I should be for the subject matter, but it might just be the cold. So
there you go. Might just be the dang cold.
Yeah. But how was your weekend?
It was good. It was good. It was actually pretty quiet, which is nice. We had a lot of time with my granddaughter, although poor baby's been sick, so she was pretty unhappy. But other than that, it was nice. It was really nice, actually, to just have a weekend at home.
Right? We've been on the run
so much lately that it was like, oh, I mean, I don't actually have to go anywhere. And we got groceries done and laundry done and things that needed to get done that haven't been. So that was nice.
That is nice. Well, my kids came home, so we weren't on the run gone, but the kids were here. Yeah. So there's always a bit of running when they're here, but it was good. We laid pretty low and just only did fun things, and it was good. Made some big strides on the ghost bathroom. It's almost done.
You sure did. Oh my gosh.
Am I excited. I can't wait to share with you guys. But I'm going to wait and just do it all at once. Otherwise, well, I just want to tie it all together. So it's all good.
That's cool.
However, here in the US of A, we had a real rough weekend due to gun violence. You probably already have heard about some of these. Of course, the LDS Church shooting and fire in Grand Blanc Township, Michigan, and we're going to talk about that exclusively today on the show, but I didn't want to do that before we also mention some of the other things that happened. In North Carolina, on Saturday night, a gunman fired from a boat into a crowd at the American Fish Company restaurant and killed 3 people and critically wounded 5. Authorities are calling it highly premeditated. In Texas, at the Eagle Pass Casino, there was a shooting resulting in 2 deaths and 5 injuries. And in Louisiana, on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, there was also a shooting that left 1 woman dead and 3 people wounded.
Jesus.
I want to make sure we mention them all before we get into our subject matter, but it's horrifying. It has got to stop. The escalation is, I don't even know what to say anymore. Yeah. But first and foremost, or most specifically today, we're going to talk about what happened in Michigan. It was an interesting morning because I woke up Sunday morning to the news that the president of the Latter-day Saint or Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormons, that their president had died overnight, President Nelson. And he was 101 years old. And I thought, ooh, this will really shake up our Mormon friends and family because it's a huge deal. And now they go through the process of choosing a new president. And I can tell you guys more about that process if you want to hear about it later. But
it's pretty much a done deal.
Yeah, they pretty much know it'll be Dallin Oaks will be the next president. But it's, that he's was beloved in the faith, and people, I thought, gosh, my friends and family that are LDS are going to be upset about this.
Yeah, and it's always a big deal when the prophet dies.
Huge deal. Yeah. So I was thinking about that, and then it was only maybe 30 minutes later that I see this breaking news about a Mormon church house attacked in Michigan, and I was floored. And it just got worse and worse and worse. So what we're going to talk about, we're going to show you a couple of the press conferences. There have actually been 4, I believe, but we're going to share 2 of them. We're going to share a couple of witness accounts. We're going to talk about another incident that happened at that same site today. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what was going on at the church. I know some of you guys get really curious about, like, what about what was happening there. So we're going to discuss that too. Happy to answer your questions if we can.
And it's so relevant to this shooting attack, what was happening in the time.
Yeah.
Like it tells you how much this person planned this when we explain.
And how much he knew.
How much he knew? Yeah.
Yeah.
About this particular ward that met in this church in this building. And
yeah.
So
let's kick it off with the first press conference.
Yes.
NYE. Here to give you some preliminary details on an incident that happened earlier today at 10:25 a.m. within Grambling Township. First off, I'd like to say our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of this incident, which is completely unnecessary and avoidable. The incident that we're going to talk about here today, as I said, was happening at 10:25 a.m. at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is located at 4285 McCandless Road. During this incident, what we know right now is that a 40-year-old suspect from Burton, he's a male, he drove his vehicle through the front doors of the church. He then exited his vehicle, firing several rounds at individuals within the church. 10 gunshot victims have been transported to local hospitals at this time, including one who has been deceased. Officers who were trained immediately responded to the area. One was a DNR officer, and then one was a Grambling Township officer, where they met the suspect and they engaged in gunfire with that particular individual, neutralizing that suspect, and that suspect is no longer with us. As I said, it is a 40-year-old male from Burton. During all this incident as well, there was a fire that occurred, and we believe that was deliberately set by the suspect. We do believe that we will find additional victims once we have that scene secure. That fire was just extinguished by the Grambling Township Fire Department within the past hour. So where we go from here is we have investigators. We're going to do search warrants on the suspect's residence. We're going to find out if there was a motive. We're going to go through cell phone records, things like that. We have the FBI, they're devoting 100 agents to this area because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of witnesses that were within the church, and that is a lot of witness information, statements that we have to obtain. So I'd like to thank all the agencies who responded, the City of Grambling, Genesee County, Oakland County Sheriff's Office, Flint Township Police Department, the DNR, the State Police, and the ATF. I will provide additional information for you at 5 p.m., but I am willing to take any questions that you have that I could possibly answer right now.
Chief, can you talk about the progress of events? Did the suspect set the fire, then get back inside of his vehicle and then ran the front door, or did it all happen at the same time?
So from what I understand, and again, this is just a preliminary investigation right now, from what I have been briefed on, is that he ran the vehicle through the front door, exited, then started firing shots. We are still trying to determine exactly when and where that fire ended up coming from and how it got started. So we believe it was deliberately set, though, by the suspect.
Were they in an active service when this happened?
Yes, the service was active. There was hundreds of people within the church.
Are you sure it's only one suspect at this point, or is it possible other people helped setting the fire? What have you?
Yes, it is one suspect that we know of at this point. We do not believe that there's a threat to the public. We believe that we have the guy who did this.
Any?
Sir.
Could you comment at all on the severity of the injuries at this time?
We have a couple in critical condition. Like I said, one is deceased. The rest of them are in stable condition.
So a couple, meaning three or two, I'm sorry?
One deceased. The suspect is deceased as well. And then multiple victims are in critical condition. We do believe that we will find some additional victims once we find the area where the fire was.
Any word on the weapon yet?
An assault rifle.
So, any, as far as ammunition, did he have a lot of ammunition?
That I don't know of yet, and I could get you later.
Okay.
Hey.
Was the suspect known to authorities, and did he have any connection to anyone who was in that church?
Right now, we don't have any of that information, but I'm confident that our investigators, along with the FBI, we're going to end up uncovering all that information and provide that at a later time for you.
Chief, to clarify, you said you may be additional victims like inside the church, or?
Yes, where the fire was. So, and the reason why we can't confirm that just yet is because it was a large fire, and we do believe that there was people up there that were near that fire, and they were unable to get out of the church. So we do believe that we will find additional victims once we're able to search that, once there's no signs of a fire reigniting.
So do you believe that of the victims that are still there, they succumbed to fire injuries or gunshots, or you're not sure yet?
That I'm not sure, but I could provide all that information hopefully at 5 p.m.
The shots were fired.
Shots were fired,
Sorry,
yes.
I had no idea how many though at this point.
No idea how many at this time. Yeah.
Can you
Sir.
describe the church? Is there like a worship area or like a gathering space or something like that?
That I have not been in, so I can't tell you the layout.
Chief, can you kind of describe the process of how things change for tactical response when there's an active fire? Every training I've seen, it's always been a building that has not been on fire. So how do you then deal with an active shooter when you have that situation happening as well?
Well, we are here at Grambling Township, and there's a lot of agencies within the state of Michigan. We are specifically trained to go right to the threat in an active shooter situation. And I'm proud of my guys and the DNR who responded to this scene, who immediately took that suspect out, so there was no additional victims. So it was a great job by our staff. Okay.
So it was a law enforcement officer that neutralized the suspect?
Yes, there was 2 law enforcement officers involved. I will be back here at 5 p.m. to give you additional information and hopefully answer some of the questions that you guys went over here today. So, okay. Supervisor Bennett?
Just go sit in here. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much.
Well, Scott Bennett, Grambling Township Supervisor. Scott, S-C-O-T-T, Bennett, B-E-N-N-E-T-T. First, let me say we are heartbroken. This kind of violence doesn't happen in our community, and we are heartbroken that it came to Grambling Township. And we're going to do everything we can to support the families, the victims, and our community getting through this situation. And it's something that no community ever wants to have. And we're going to do our best to do everything we can. We appreciate the outpouring of support from our elected leaders from both national and state in offering their assistance, and we probably will take them up on their offers. So we appreciate that very much, and we appreciate the community reaching out to us also. So the details are yet to come, as Chief Rennie has said, and we'll wait for a little bit later today when we have the rest of the situation assessed. But it may take a little while to do that. But thank you for all the support, and I'm sure that the families and the victims are going to need that. It's a tragedy that nobody wants to encounter. Thank you.
Chief, before you step out, can you go over the process for family members, where you want them to go, who they should call to get more information and reunification?
Yeah, so those family members, they are in a secure area right now. They have been taken over to Trillium, so that's where the FBI will interview them and then release them from there. So
I mean, in terms of anybody who might be at home who was not there, who wants to check in to see if their loved one is okay, is there a number or a place that you want them to go?
yes, you could call the Grambling Township Police Department, 810-424-2611. Thank you.
Okay, so a couple of things. He is the one who started the rumor that there were hundreds of people in this church at the time of this incident. There were
Yeah.
not. There were 125 to 150 people in the building
Yeah.
at the time of the incident. It gets confusing because this building is a stake center, which is bigger than a regular congregation, and we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. But a stake center, the church's capacity is 1,100 people. There weren't 1,100 people in the building. This was one ward. And in Michigan, wards are 250 to 500 people. And the people who were there are reporting that there were 125 to 150 people in there. It would literally have been someone's job to count how many people were there that day. They record. One of the things the Mormon Church does is they keep exhaustive records, and they count how many people attend their services.
Yeah.
So 125 to 150 people. This is the presser from today, just kind of clearing up and cleaning up a lot of information, telling us a little bit more about everything.
Good afternoon. I am Specialist Lieutenant Kim Better, Michigan State Police Public Information Officer. Thank you for joining us for this afternoon's news conference. Joining us today is Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Colonel James F. Grady II, Director of the Michigan State Police, James Deere, ATF Special Agent in Charge for Michigan, FBI Acting Special Agent in Charge Reuben Coleman, Sheriff Chris Swanson, Genesee County Sheriff, and Chief William Rennie, Grand Blanc Township Police Department. Thank you. I'm here as governor to bring the full support of the entire state of Michigan to this community. I want to thank all of our local law enforcement, state police, federal agents for their swift response. I want to thank local fire and EMS and medical providers for saving lives and caring for those who are still fighting for their lives in the hospital. And thank the incredible Department of Natural Resources Conservation Officer and the local Grand Blanc officer for their brave actions to take down the shooter and their quick response. I think we can see the best of public service in all of these individuals. As I said, I'm here as the governor, but I'm also here as a fellow Michigander whose heart is breaking by another mass shooting in a place that is supposed to be defined by togetherness and a close-knit community here in Grand Blanc. As a state, we know the pain of this too well. We've seen gun violence in our schools, stores, parades, festivals, and our houses of worship. These are places that we go to feel connected, to feel safe, to be together. But today, this place has been shattered by bullets and broken glass. And this might be a familiar pain, but it hurts all the same. Every time. We cannot keep living our lives like this. I know that this community is reeling right now, and I want you to know that the state of Michigan has your back. Your grief is our grief. I ordered flags lowered statewide, and I spoke with President Trump yesterday, who wanted to share his condolences. We will be here every step of the way and coordinate a full response with our local and federal partners. Folks here at the township at every level, we're working closely together. And there's one thing I know about Michiganders, is that we get through hard things together. And that's who we are. That's how the good people here at the Grand Blanc Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints live their lives. They worship together, they sing together, and they serve together. And that's why I was so proud to see powerful statements from interfaith leaders across Michigan denouncing this attack on a house of worship. They grieved for this congregation as though it was their own. They spoke with one voice for the basic principle that we all believe in, that you should be able to pray in peace in our state, no matter who you are. I know that in the hours and days ahead, we will see the best of Michigan. We will see neighbors being neighborly, checking in with a call, bringing over some food, or offering a hug. We'll see medical providers work hard to save lives and treat those in need, with scars both seen and unseen. We will see this congregation unite and rally together like never before and continue worshiping together, singing together, and serving together. Because that's who Michiganders are. We will stay in close contact and continue to work together. Now, like everyone I know, we have lots of questions. How could this happen? What created this moment? Why? And that's motivated by a genuine motivation to understand, to learn, to prevent in the future. But I want to caution everyone, while we are working hard, while the good men and women who are working hard are doing so with due diligence at this juncture, speculation is unhelpful and it can be downright dangerous. So just ask that people lower the temperature of rhetoric. Keep your loved ones close and keep this community close to your hearts. Let's keep doing the work together. Let's be kind and let's love our neighbors. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce the head of the Michigan State Police, Colonel James Grady.
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon. Now, this community has been greatly impacted by yesterday's events. We are offering our deepest condolences to those affected by this tragedy. This horrific event is something that this community has never experienced. It is important at this time that we come together to support one another in this time of grief. We stand ready and willing to assist both our local and federal partners with any additional needs as this investigation continues. The Michigan State Police immediately responded alongside our public safety partners to secure the scene, provide support to our neighbors, with our emergency support team serving search warrants, the bomb squad and K-9 team sweeping numerous locations for evidence and explosives. Additionally, our forensic science laboratories and our special investigations section continue to investigate the officer-involved shooting and work alongside our federal and local partners. I'd like to take a moment for everybody to remember that last year, we put together an initiative called Stop the Plot. While we are committed to keeping our community safe, we also need your help. Again, it takes everybody. 53% of mass attacks leave a trail of clues leading up to them. And 2/3 of mass attackers elicited behavior that caused concerns. So we are asking our communities to stay vigilant. And if you see something suspicious, please contact local law enforcement or 911 immediately. We will keep the family in our prayers here at MSP as they continue to cover and we work together. Thank you for your time. Next up, we will have from the AT. Thank you. We will have ATS Special Agent in Charge for Michigan, James Deere.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Deere with ATF. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for ATF Michigan. On behalf of the men and women of ATF, I offer my deepest sympathy and condolences to this community and to the families affected by this tragedy, this horrific act of violence. There is no place in our society for this. There's absolutely no place, but it's become all too common. And as we know, we have become more and more desensitized. This community is hurting and we are here to help them heal. As part of that healing process, ATF has brought in their national response team. This is a cadre of world-renowned investigators for arson and explosive incidents. They have been used all over the world, and they come from places as far as California, Hawaii, and they're here in Michigan now. They arrived last night, they've briefed, they're examining the scene, and that is what they're doing at this point. From ATF's perspective, I would encourage the community not to travel by the church. Those roads have been blocked off and access is controlled. While that might be a little disheveling for folks, we need that scene security for our investigators as they dig out this scene. So with that in mind, that's our ask for the community. We are also looking at improvised explosive devices that were recovered during this investigation and looking towards that end as well. I need to introduce the acting special agent in charge for the FBI of Detroit, Michigan, Reuben Coleman.
My name is Reuben Coleman. I'm acting special agent in charge of FBI Detroit Field Office, which represents the entire state. At this time, we wanted to provide an update on our investigative efforts regarding yesterday's tragic shooting at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan. First, I want to express my gratitude for all the cross-agency collaboration between our federal, state, and local partners. Their support has been outstanding and critical to this investigation. We are in lockstep with our partners as we continue to work through this. As I mentioned yesterday, the FBI is investigating this as an act of targeted violence, and we are continuing to work to determine a motive. In the past 24 hours, our investigative squads and specialty teams have been out all night, exhausting leads, some of which have been coming in from the public via tips. Our special agents, victim specialists, child advocate forensic interviewers, and local partners have interviewed over 100 victims and witnesses to date and are continuing to interview individuals as we speak. Our evidence response team, or ERT, which is a specialized team of special agents, intelligence analysts, and professional staff, are trained to process crime scenes and collect evidence. They were out all night and continue processing the scene as we speak. Our field office has stood up national equities for support. We are engaging with our behavioral analyst unit, or BAU, and have received support from our Quantico Labs division to analyze evidence collected to date. We received assistance from our FBI field offices across the country to support this case and file down leads. While our focus is on this investigation, we want to continue to keep the victims and their families in our thoughts as they navigate through this incredibly difficult time. Please continue to reach out to the FBI via 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit tips at tips.fbi.gov. Thank you. Chief?
Sure. You prepare in peace to perform in chaos. I saw it live. I saw what you trained for, what you planned for, and the reality hit yesterday morning in a bright sunny day when people went to worship. But what I also saw is every level of government law enforcement work together for the good of the people. What I witnessed was people putting their lives at risk that had 2 months on the job as an EMT, or brand new firefighters, veteran firefighters, and law enforcement, just to bring a sense of stability to a scene that was chaotic and dynamic. As the sheriff of this county, I see the great people every day, but I want this community to know that those ranks and those agencies that were mentioned before me, we worked together, we worked in concert, and we did the job. And there's more to do. I'll tell you, the sheriff's office dedicated every county sheriff medic that we had available, patrol, investigators, we did interviews, emergency management, whatever the task was needed. The sheriff's office worked with everybody that you heard and many that you don't know to bring justice and also order to this scene. But I will tell you, the days are continuing. We have 31 marked cars on as we speak, making sure schools that are in session and churches that are planning Bible studies, regardless of faith-based, that they will be protected. Anybody who calls in, we will be there like other law enforcement to settle the community and bring a sense of calmness to people. There is an uncertainty, but law enforcement, especially the sheriff's office, will bring that to you. I will tell you that there are noble heroes who do not wear a uniform that went to that church yesterday. You're going to hear their stories as we lay out this case with law enforcement, but I will tell you this, those heroes from that church did their job. And it was led because of a police department. So law enforcement from this township is led by a chief who demonstrated leadership right out of the gate. And my honor is to announce him as the final speaker, Chief Rennie of Grand Blanc Township.
Thank you, Sheriff. Evil. This was an evil act of violence. That's exactly what this was. And this is not Grand Blanc. This does not define Grand Blanc and who we are. We are a community, and I am confident that together we're going to build a stronger community due to this incident. Now, an update, this left 5 people dead, 8 people injured. As I said, this is an evil act and does not define Grand Blanc or who we are. At this time, what we know is everyone has been accounted for. We still are in the process of clearing out that church, but at this time, everyone is accounted for. We ask that you stay away from the scene. Let us work to clear this call so then we could get back to normal. That's what we all want. Grand Blanc Township police officers, the community of Grand Blanc Township, we're hurting. And we know that you are hurting as well with us. I want to remind you that we had the Family Assistance Center open. They will be open Monday and Tuesday at the Genesis Athletic Club from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That address is 801 Health Park Boulevard, Grand Blanc, Michigan 48439. Seek service, let's come back together and be stronger together and better. I'll open it up at this time for any questions. Sir.
I have a question. When it comes to the act of violence, can you define why it's considered an act of violence and not something more serious like terrorism?
I will let Agent Coleman speak to that particular question.
Yes, as of right now, we are calling it an act of violence as this is an investigation that is continuing. We are continuing to receive leads. We're continuing to run down all information. And once we're able to ascertain definitively what we have, that's when we'll make those statements. But as of right now, this is an act of violence. Thank you.
Follow up on that, please. You called this an act of targeted violence. Can you tell us who you believe the target was? A specific person, the LDS Church, another group?
Well, as of right now, again, as this is an ongoing investigation, what I would say is when I say targeted violence, I mean targeted within our state and within our community. Right now, what we are here for are the families and the victims, and we're going to work diligently in order to make sure we can bring closure for them as well.
So can we just clarify the motive? There was some chatter that the suspect's ex-girlfriend was a Mormon or something of that nature, chatter online about that. Is that something that you can speak to or any possible motive?
That is something I cannot speak to at this point in time.
We heard that someone was arrested after driving through the barricade near the church. Can you share any information on that, why they were arrested, maybe what their intentions were?
Yes, Chief.
Yes, I could speak on that. Yes, there was an incident out there. We are still in the process of investigating that incident, whether or not it's related or not. I could tell you that we do have a 21-year-old person in custody for that incident right now.
Does the suspect have any prior criminal history or no contact with law enforcement?
Are you talking about the suspect from yesterday or today?
The suspect from yesterday.
The suspect from yesterday has been arrested by law enforcement in the past.
And the 5 dead, does that include the suspect or is that another?
The 5 dead includes the suspect.
Can you give any details on what those prior arrests were?
Burglary and OWI. That I can't give you 100%.
What do we know?
Terry.
No, so I just wanted to clarify, no more victims. We searched the church and.
We have not completed search in the church, but as we know, everyone has been accounted for. So that's going to be all the questions that we answered today. If you this is our last press conference. If there's other pertinent information that develops, we will let you guys all know and post that on our social media account, Grand Blanc Township Police Department Facebook page. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. I'd just like to note that Dr. Michael Danek, the Medical Chief of Staff from Henry Ford Genesis, will be available for questions after this news conference. He's here on the side of the room. Does anybody need any spelling of names? No?
Would it be possible to just bring him up right now?
Sure. We're going to, yep.
Can we also confirm right now, are there 8 injured still at the time? So 5 that including the shooter 8? Correct.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Zakalik. I'm the PR director at Henry Ford Health. I'm going to introduce now Dr. Michael Danek, normal spelling for Michael, D-A-N-I-C. He is our medical chief of staff at Henry Ford Genesis Hospital. He's going to make some opening remarks, talk about what happened yesterday. We'll take a few questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's a very sad day for our community. Our law enforcement did amazing, as well as our medical staff. throughout the entire Genesee County area. Henry Ford Genesis was prepared and did extremely well. And we also like to thank Hurley and McLaren for taking great care of all the patients. An update on what we have had is we had a total of 8 patients at Henry Ford Genesis from the ages 8. 5 were gunshot wounds and 3 were smoke inhalations.
Sorry, guys, this was on their end. Let me get through. Sanders?
And 3 were smoke inhalations. Came in, was stabilized, and then transferred.
I have another copy of him
And then
that doesn't
you?
buffer. Yeah.
That would be good. Let's throw that up because that's just how this particular recording did. So if you've got that, let's switch.
I do. Let's swap out.
We had a total of 8 patients at Henry Ford Genesis from the ages of 6 to 78. 5 were gunshot wounds and 3 were smoke inhalations. 2 of the smoke inhalations have been discharged. 1 is still intubated at this time. For the gunshot wounds, 1 had sustained gunshot wounds, multiple to the chest and abdomen. It's in critical condition.
So that gives us a basic understanding of where we are right now. So a total of 5 dead, including the shooter. 2 of those deceased died of gunshot wounds. 2 of them died from the fire, and their bodies were found by first responders after the fire was put out. They were afraid last night that they might find more because they said at that time that there were 7 unaccounted for people.
Yes.
And so that was really scary that there might be more bodies. They've now accounted for everyone.
Yes.
That they believe who was there in the building that day. And so they do believe now that they won't find any more bodies.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
But there are still people in critical condition at this point as well.
Right. I mean, one of the shooting victims actually died at the hospital yesterday. But yeah, the one person particularly that has multiple gunshot wounds to the chest and abdomen, that's so terrifying.
Yes, it is.
That person is in critical condition. There's another abdomen that's in critical condition. And then, of course, 1 child that they stabilized and transferred, and 1 male that was shot in the leg.
Mm-hmm. And they do have 1 smoke inhalation patient who is intubated.
Yes.
That's also quite severe. So
Yeah, it is. That's
we'll
very
see.
severe. So let's talk a little bit about what we know and show you some of the things that we have to share. Pardon me. They were in sacrament meeting. So that's their main meeting. So I wanted to show you a couple of pictures. I put together a little slideshow. This is very common to what the interior of a Mormon chapel looks like. Mormon churches have their meeting chapel, such as this, but then they also have a lot of classrooms. They have a kitchen, various bathrooms. They have a mother's room. They have offices. They're pretty good sized buildings, and they have a lot of rooms, which, other churches, a lot of them have the chapel and a meeting area, but Mormon churches, because they have so many different classes, they have a lot of classrooms and meeting rooms. They also have the cultural hall. So the cultural hall, if you look in this picture at the very back, you can see that brown wood looking, that's a sliding panel that opens up into the gym or the cultural hall. And that's where there's a lot of award events that happen there. There's usually a stage for performances and things. There is usually a basketball court.
I guess they're not putting the stages in like they used to. That used to be a standard.
Yeah.
But this is a really old Mormon church, and so it probably has all of that.
All of those things, yeah. There's always a good-sized kitchen that's usually attached to the gym. where the cultural hall. So, but this is what the interior of a Mormon church typically looks like in the chapel, or something such as this. This is from the pulpit looking out. This is a fancy older one from Utah.
Yeah, that's a really big one.
That actually has an organ. They don't all have organs that are quite that fancy anymore. But as you can see, though, there's room for congregants. There is a pulpit. The bench right behind the pulpit is typically where the bishop and the first counselor and the second counselor sit, and potentially anyone else that's speaking would also be sitting up here somewhere. Then, of course, there's always a piano and an organ. And then there's some seating for a choir, if there is one. There's churches, Mormon churches don't have church choirs the way other churches do. They may have a choir, but they don't, it's not the same kind of like performing at church every week kind of a thing in the LDS church.
No, they have certain times. They probably perform for Christmas. They might perform for Easter, like that kind of thing, but it's not an all the time.
Yeah.
To the right. Singing.
Yeah. To the right over here, you can see this little kind of a bar top. That is where the sacrament is prepared. So they had just finished taking the sacrament in this meeting. So church starts about 10, and this incident happened, I believe the 911 call came in at 10:33. So I just thought I'd give you a quick rundown of what this meeting is like. So there's an opening, there's prelude music, and then you'll have a member of the bishopric, which is either the bishop or the first counselor or the second counselor, conducts the meeting. Then there's an opening hymn, and then there's the opening prayer, which is usually given by a member of the congregation that's been asked beforehand. Then whoever's conducting will give the announcements. That could be ward activities or upcoming events or special needs in the congregation, or if there's a message from like higher up leadership, like the first presidency, they would give that at that time.
That would have happened yesterday because the prophet had passed away, so they would have acknowledged that.
Yeah. This was probably already a very somber meeting because of the passing of the prophet. And then they pass the sacrament. And this is a big part of going to church at the Mormon church. And I know other churches do like communion. At this church, it is the sacrament. So in the sacrament, this is what you receive: a little cup of water and a little torn off piece of bread. So at this little spot right here on the right, that's where you have some of the boys. It's usually boys that have received the priesthood, so over 12. They come together over there and they prepare the sacrament. So they pour all the water into the little cups. They have all these trays that they carry. They tear up all the bread. At least when we were still active, kids who were supposed to be doing the sacrament this week were in charge of bringing bread from home. So you never knew what you were going to get. But
yeah.
Sometimes it was Winco bread. Sometimes it was homemade. Yes.
Yeah.
But you got a tiny bite. So they have all of their little trays prepared and ready for sacrament. And then they bless the sacrament. And there's 2 different passings of the sacrament. They pass the water, and that is in remembrance of the blood of Jesus Christ. And they pass the bread, which is in remembrance of the flesh or the body of Jesus Christ. Taking the sacrament is a really sacred rite of Mormonism. And it's a time for you to sit quietly and reflect, or get pinched by your mom for laughing too much. Both things have happened. It's a time when you renew your covenants to Jesus Christ, and it's a time to think about like your baptismal covenants and what you have promised to do and who you've promised to be. It takes a few minutes to get all the way through that. Depending on how many kids you have passing the sacrament, it can take a while for them to make sure that every single person has received these things. They also frequently have kids that will go out into the community to people that are homebound or are maybe in a nursing facility or the hospital that can't take the sacrament, can't be there to take the sacrament, and they will take it to them. But taking the sacrament is really important. If you are being disciplined by the church, you may be asked to not take the sacrament for a certain amount of time. And when the sacrament comes to you, you're supposed to just pass it along and not take it. I've seen that too.
Oh, will the tongues be a wagon if that happens?
If that happens, yes, for sure. Yes. With the prayers, they have to be said verbatim. They have to be said exactly as written. And the bishop or whoever's presiding listens carefully to those prayers. And if they say them incorrectly, if they skip a single word, depending on how picky the whoever the presiding officer is, they'll make them re-say them. I have heard the sacrament prayers be resaid 4 or 5 times before because they weren't said correctly. It's real picky.
It's a sad moment because it's some poor 12-year-old kid who's just learning.
Yeah.
And is scared to death and voice is wavering and you can almost barely hear them because they're whispering it into the microphone.
And fumbling their words and have to start over. Yep, that's a real thing that happens sometimes. And then once the sacrament is all done, then those things are put away and the boys come and sit down, and then they have speakers. And every sacrament meeting, except for one sacrament meeting a month, which is called Fast and Testimony meeting, and we'll talk about it. When they get to that point, the speakers are members of the congregation. They could be members of the bishopric. They could be members of higher leadership, like a stake president or a regional director, or, it could be someone like that. But usually it's people in the ward. It could be a missionary that's just leaving or just returning. It could be anyone else that's asked. And it's really frowned on. Yes, children or adults, very frowned on to say no. If you're asked to speak, by God, you better speak. But speaking in church is terrifying to people sometimes, but it's an expectation that you are a participant in the church services. Once the speakers are done, then there is a closing song and a closing prayer, and then the priests are 16. The younger kids pass the sacrament, but the priests are 16.
Oh, you're right.
They're the ones
Thanks,
that say
Jane.
the prayer. At any rate, after that, then they'll likely break into classes. There is Sunday school that happens. The church changed this sometime after COVID. It used to be 3 hours. You'd go to sacrament meeting and you'd have an hour of Sunday school, and then you would have an hour of either Relief Society or priesthood meetings, or if you were a kid, then you'd have primary. So, and then there's nursery for really little ones. Now, though, it sounds like they've broken that down so that you have sacrament meeting always, and then you either have one or the other of classes every week. So that church was cut from 3 hours to 2 hours. So, but that's essentially what goes on in sacrament meeting. So they had just finished the sacrament. There is once a month, this is the first Sunday of the month, is called Fast and Testimony meeting. Fast and Testimony meeting is a meeting where you're asked to fast for 2 meals.
This was Fast and Testimony meeting.
No, next week would be Fast and Testimony meeting.
That's some of the people that I watched said it was.
Are they saying it was fast? Wow,
Yeah.
okay. I was wondering, I was looking at the calendar thinking it wasn't, but they might have changed it for some reason too. Sometimes they do. But
well, next weekend is conference. So
that would be why. Yep. So Fast and Testimony meeting is a similar meeting, except for that there are no speakers. After the sacrament is passed, then people from the ward, it's kind of open mic night. People are invited to come up and share their love for Jesus Christ and for their ward. So at any rate, this is how it, but that's how they operate. That's pretty much what this meeting would have looked like yesterday. They had just finished the sacrament when this happened. So, and people inside reported hearing a crash and a shaking and ran out to see. They thought somebody had maybe had an accident of some sort, ran out to see, and were faced with a gunman that was shooting at them. And then, of course, a fire immediately started as well. Yeah. This is kids passing the sacrament. That's what that all looks like. So this is the church before. This is the vehicle that crashed into the building. Sorry, I have a terrible basset hound in here having fun. So this is the truck that crashed into the church. That is the church fire. I'm going to kick her out of here just a minute.
So this is what the church looked like when it was on fire. Unfortunately, the fire really took off. There's a lot of very flammable things inside of a church, if you can imagine. It might be brick on the outside, but the interior, there's a lot of soft surfaces. And so it appeared that this fire took off very quickly.
Yeah, right. Well, they said they thought it was a gas accelerant, but he
Yes.
had some, there was also talk that he had some explosives in his vehicle too.
Couple of pipe bombs, probably.
Yeah, something like that.
ATF hasn't fully
Yeah.
identified those, but that's what it's sounding like from witnesses.
Hmm.
Somebody said, were there not 2 wards? There were not, Carrie. There's only 1 ward that meets in this building. There was
Yeah.
only 1 ward that met in this building. But this is in Michigan, and we'll talk a little bit about the saturation of Mormons in Michigan, and it'll explain probably why. Where
Yeah.
we're from, a building this big would have at least 2 wards, if
Right.
not 3,
Mhm.
meeting in that same building on, staggered times.
But even just like my small town, I don't even know how many churches are in my town, but I'll tell you, it's a lot. There's a church at the end of my road, and you drive a mile past that church, and there's a double stake center, so it's twice the size of this building. Yeah, there's a lot of churches. This is today, the aftermath of it. And so understand that while this was all happening, it all happened so fast, and there were people trying to protect the children and get the old people out and get people to safety, and they were being shot at while they were trying to get them out of the building. The gunman shot at people in the parking lot, shot holes in their cars. And then the police finally took him down in the back parking lot. But I mean, it was an unbelievably terrifying situation. And then, as we know, some people did not make it out of the building, which is incredibly sad and frightening. Not all of the victims have been released yet. We know there was a 77-year-old man, and I'm not going to tell you their names because they haven't really been fully released yet. So, but there was a 77-year-old man and another man in his 60s, and that's all we know as of yet.
Mm-hmm.
They talked a little bit about another car that pulled up today and caused some chaos. I have a little video of that. So this was today. He comes flying in this red car and drives through the barricade. And they arrest him. He had a long gun in his car, and they really aren't sure what he was doing there. 21-year-old guy. We also know that there have been a whole bunch of bomb threats at other churches in that area after this happened. A bunch of copycat shit that went on. Because, I don't know, people are crazy as hell. That's my best guess.
Just terrify the shit out of everyone. They didn't find any bombs anywhere else. There weren't any other explosions or anything. It was all just fake.
Uh-huh.
And those things all happened after this shooter was dead.
Yep. Yep. Well, and they have, oh, sorry, train of thought shot. There's so much information coming out that, let's talk about what we know about the shooter. You've got some info on him.
I do. Let's see. Let me get a photo of him up. This is him right here. His name is Thomas Jacob Sanford, known to go by Jake. He was 40 years old and lived in Burton, Michigan, which is a little town just one over from Grand Blanc. We know that he was a former Marine, and he served in Iraq from 2004 to 2008, achieving the rank of sergeant. He was actually deployed to Iraq between 2007 and 2008. He graduated from Goodrich High School in Michigan, not far from this church. We know that he drove his truck through the front of the LDS chapel, exited with a rifle, opened fire, and used gasoline to set fire to the building. They think gasoline or an accelerant like it. You saw the truck with the 2 American flags mounted. He was shot and killed by responding officers in the parking lot. The whole incident only lasted for 8 minutes from the time it started to the time that they took him out. Some other things that are less confirmed, but are coming out from people in the community. Now, I will say that these are not things that have been confirmed by law enforcement yet. The first is that a local city council candidate was canvassing in Sanford's neighborhood just a few days ago and knocked on his door and had a fairly intense conversation with him about a lot of things. And one of the things that he says came up was expressing hostility toward Mormonism and referred to the Mormon church as the Antichrist. There is some, it sounds like there was a time when he actually lived in Utah and was in a relationship with an LDS woman and has expressed some issues around potentially being asked to remove his tattoos in relation to that relationship. I would imagine that if he was in a relationship with an LDS woman, that there may have been some, pressure to join the Mormon church. Mormons marry Mormons in general.
Yeah.
Active Mormons marry Mormons. And so
Yeah.
she would have not wanted to continue a relationship with him unless he were to have joined, likely. And it is not currently an expectation, but in the past, having tattoos could keep you from going through the Mormon temple.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much the case now, but this was several years ago when it still was. So that's a potential, another potential connection to the Mormon church. The city council candidate did say that he multiple times referred to the Mormon church as the Antichrist and talked about how much he hated the Mormon church. We know that he does have a criminal history, burglary, and operating while under the influence. It's said by multiple people that he had a drug problem after coming out of the military. That he was no longer using drugs, but that there was a history there. The attack clearly shows planning. One of the things that I think is really important to realize is that he hit this church at a time when all of the people were in the same room.
Yeah.
Sacrament meeting is everyone in the chapel. When sacrament meeting is over, then they split up. The kids go to their classes, adults split out to theirs. And so then there are people spread out throughout the entire building. But to hit the church in the middle of sacrament meeting, nearly every single person in the church would be in the same room.
Yep.
So it certainly shows knowledge of the schedule, the structure to know when to hit the most people, as well as just the schedule of when the church is in use. He also knew where to go when he drove through the front door of that church. He knew right where to go to shoot the people. So there's some prior knowledge here that I think is going to be important over time.
Yeah.
Tons of stuff still happening in reviewing his electronics and, all of that kind of stuff. Yes, he went to an evangelical church, one town over. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, yeah, he sounds like potentially he had beef with the Mormon church. I want to show a picture of him that is being used by some news outlets, because this picture that I'm showing here is much more accurate of what he looked like when this occurred. Big, heavy beard, bald on top. This is a much younger picture of him. It appears to be, I would assume, from a wedding, maybe even his wedding. He was an avid hunter. And if you can tell, the boutonniere that he is wearing is made from a shotgun shell. But I'll bet you this is a wedding. It might even been his, but look at how much younger he looks. This is a picture that's being put out there by some news outlets that I think is really misinformation, because that is not what this man looked like when he committed this crime.
No.
He looked like this guy right here. Big, heavy beard. Tons of pictures of him in camo, because hunting was his thing. He was way into guns and hunting and, outdoorsy things like that.
Yeah.
And so these two pictures are much more accurate to what Sanford actually looks like now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we know. Of course, there's more that will come eventually. I don't think it's really hard to look at the truck and look at him and get a pretty good idea of who this guy was, honestly. But I'm sure we'll know more.
Yep.
You know, it's just, they're going to tell us some stuff. I mean, the thing is,
Right.
there's no one to arrest. There's no one to look for. There's no one to try and there's no one to charge, prosecute.
Yeah. There will
He's
be no
dead.
discovery, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. But that is what we
clearly
know about Sanford
PTSD
at
and
this
mental
point.
health issues here. Yeah. Yes, he was currently married and has a child
yes.
as well.
Yep. Married
Yep.
and has a 10-year-old child. A
Yeah.
10-year-old child who has a rare disease, I guess.
Yeah.
There's been some history of GoFundMe's and like community support in helping with a child who was born with a very rare condition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yes, North Wildling says the usual suspect. He is.
Yeah.
He is one of the usual suspects. He's one of these white guys
with a
who
gun.
loves guns and trucks, man. How many times have we seen it? Many, many times.
His dad did a brief interview today, you know, and just his family's horrified and expressed their shock. And, you know, of course, per normal, they had no idea he would ever do something like this. The reporter asked him if he had any idea what the motive is, and he said it's irrelevant. I think a lot of people would disagree with that.
It's not irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant. However, this is also a family that is shocked and hurt and grieving, and
right.
You know, they don't know what to say. You know, it's terrifying. It's
But
all terrifying.
If this city council candidate is to be believed,
Mm-hmm.
he said all of these things
Yep.
about, you know, hating the Mormon church and really vile stuff to a total stranger.
Yeah.
If he would say those things to a total stranger, what was he saying to people who knew him?
Right. Right. He also seemed to have quite a bit of information about the church, like about Joseph Smith and the origins of the church, which tells me he probably has some pretty good internet search history stuff.
Well,
yeah.
and he may have had the missionary discussions. If he was dating
True,
a
he may
woman who
have.
was not a Mormon, the first thing she would have done is get the missionaries in there to try to convert him, which it clearly didn't work. He didn't join the Mormon church. So
to the best of our knowledge. To the best of our
best
knowledge.
Yeah.
I do have a short clip of a lady who was present. Let's share that. Very sweet lady.
In that vehicle, you were in that car when the shooting happened. You were inside the church?
I was inside the church.
You were inside the church. So walk me through what happened.
Okay, we went to church. We sat down. We had just gotten done with our sacrament, the sacrament for a short meeting. One of our counselors was up speaking, and we heard a big bang and the doors blew. And then everybody rushed out. And we went through the church and out through the parking lot. They were trying to get us down to the lake. But the lady that I was trying to help out, she couldn't make it that far, so we got us back up in the parking lot and got us into the Taylor's car. When we got in the cars and we flipped around, and that's when the shooter started shooting at the car. And Brother Taylor is fine. It hit his hand. And then we got over there and we came here, and these nice people let us in, and we've been here since.
I'm so sorry for you to experience something like that. Words will never be enough to tell you how scary of a situation this was. 10:30, this unfolded. When you heard the loud bang, when you heard the gunshots, what was going through your mind at that point in time?
Surreal. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know if we were going to have to get down because we couldn't see anybody. You know, we couldn't see. So I'm not sure if he came in the building or not because he was outside, you know, obviously when we. So, but it was just scary. I mean, I came to worship my Savior Jesus Christ, and I didn't expect this to happen. Of course, you know, it has, you know, it's, and I've lost friends in there.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
And
just went to church. Just went to church. I mean, put yourself in her shoes. Can you imagine?
No.
No one would ever expect something like this to happen.
Well, and in a chapel where there are infants and tiny children and elderly people who are not in a position to be able to run and hide and defend themselves and get away and protect themselves. Terrible, terrifying.
Terrifying. Yep. I do have a few things that other people have said. Let me get to that. Excuse me. I've had a lot of notes. Several congregants said they heard a big bang or a loud crash. Several people said they thought someone had accidentally driven into the building. People said that as they rushed forward to see what happened, some people realized it was intentional because the shooter hopped out with a weapon. Other people were still running out and then kind of coming to a screeching halt because he started shooting.
Some people also said they saw the flags in the back of the truck and they knew it was on purpose.
Yes. There was a witness named Paul Kirby who said that he felt the shrapnel hit him and saw the shooter firing. Another witness said none of us recognized this guy. He came inside in camel pants with an assault rifle.
Yeah, and they didn't know him. Like, no one from the congregation was like, we know this guy. Like,
right, he
wasn't
goes here.
affiliated
Yeah.
with them.
No, they didn't know him at all. Some people, stayed to pull other people out of the building. It sure makes you wonder if the people who died were trying to save other people,
Right.
or how that happened. But there
One
were
concern was that people might have been hiding like in closets and things when that fire was burning.
And then they couldn't get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
People were loading others into their cars. Like, just ward members are a big family and they do take really good care of each other. And so as the people were running into the parking lot, it was just throw anyone in your car you could and get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
We know that there were nurses that were striking at the hospital nearby, the hospital from the doctor we heard from recently. And as soon as they heard about this, they left the picket line and ran to the church to help the first responders.
Yeah.
And their union spokesman said, human life is more important than employment at this time. It was really sweet, though, that, they just recognized their role and it wasn't that far and they actually ran to get there to just try to help.
Well, and if you heard what the governor said in the very beginning, is that the first people to arrive were like Fish and Wildlife Police.
Yeah.
And that is who neutralized the subject. That's what she said.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This community's really come together. There was another statement, too, that quite a few of the first responders are very new to the job.
Yeah.
And they just dove in, rolled up their sleeves, and just dove in and did everything they could. My heart really goes out to the first responders. I can't imagine how horrific and terrifying and awful this has been for them. Yeah. Not to mention, of course, the ward and all of the people affected and across the globe. I mean, all of my friends and family that are still LDS, I mean, to learn yesterday morning that their prophet died and then hear about this all in the same morning, my gosh, horrifying.
Horrifying. So scary. And some people have been asking us, in Discord particularly, if this church has security. No. Mormon churches, everyone is a volunteer. Yeah. No one works for pay in the Mormon, at this level of Mormonism.
At this level, yeah.
Everyone is a volunteer, and no, they don't have security of any kind.
No, though I wonder if they'll start considering that now. Unless, I did see some people say that in their church, just because of their locale, that they have ward members who are like retired police officers and stuff like that do, perform some kind of like layman's security, but that's it.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how you defend against a guy who actually drives his vehicle into the building. Like,
right. Who was going to stop him, really?
Yeah, security wasn't going to stop anything in that situation.
No, definitely not. Nope. So our hearts are broken. I think it's incredibly sad. Not a member of that church anymore, but I think about my childhood and what it would have felt like to be in that church, and it's just horrifying.
Oh, yeah. It is. It absolutely is. I wanted to talk a little bit about just Mormonism in Michigan, because we talk about Mormonism in Idaho, East Idaho, and Utah, which is a very heavy concentration.
Yeah.
It's different in other states. So in Michigan, 1% of the population of Michigan reports themselves to be Mormon, which isn't very many. It's about 46,000 people in the state identify themselves as being Mormon. This church, they had 125 to 150 people around, was their regular attendance on Sundays. They started church at 10 a.m. and that was a schedule that's published on the church on their website. So certainly that is something that could have been found quite easily by the shooter. But he would need to understand what's like, he chose the time where very likely to hit the most people. And there was clear knowledge of this, ward. This building is called the Grand Blank Stake Center. A stake center, a stake is a group of wards. Wards are like parishes or congregations. There are 7 wards in that stake, but at this time only one of them was actually attending church in that building. They're probably quite spread out. I mean, where we live, there are multiple stakes in the same city.
Right.
It didn't appear that like this was the Grand Blank ward, which was like everybody that lives in and around Grand Blank that's a Mormon went to this church. So it was much more spread out. So
Looks
that
like there was a
building holds
Flint
1,100 people.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have something called stake conference, and then everybody comes to that building for a church service. And then it would have been a much fuller church at the time.
Yeah.
Let's see. So anyway, that's just kind of how it's set up. This is a really old building. Apparently it had been around for a very long time. And looking at it, you can see that it's a much older style of Mormon church. They all have similarities though. Like if you know what you're looking for, you can pick a Mormon church out anywhere. One thing you might notice is that there are no crucifixes. There were no crucifixes on the building or inside. That's not a thing in Mormonism.
Well, it didn't used to be. It's becoming more.
Kind of becoming more of one, but yeah.
You
didn't grow
usually
up in
don't see
churches that
crosses
had
on
crucifixes
LDS
ever.
churches. No, yeah.
Yeah, it was actually like a thing we were not allowed to wear or do or talk about or draw or anything.
Right. And that's changing now. But
it seems to be, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I have a terrible cold, so my eyes are watering. It is sad subject matter, and it does make me really sad. But I also just can't quit this eye from watering. So that's what we've got. I wanted to talk just a little bit about what's happening between the Mormon Church and other folks that consider themselves to be Christians. And not all of them. I'm not painting everybody with a broad brush, but you will find online lots of people who claim that Mormons are not Christians. They're not included in their camp. And because this guy went to an evangelical church, it makes you wonder if that was some of their belief. But
could have been.
So why do people think that? I mean, it's literally in the name, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Well, it's because of the way the Mormon Church is formatted. There's a lot about this conversation, but there's a few things that become the argument. One is that most Christian denominations teach the Trinity, one God in 3 co-equal, co-eternal persons, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the LDS Church has the Godhead, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, that are 3 distinct beings. That have the same purpose, but they're not the same being. And that is considered to be really blasphemous by certain certain Christian religions. Christianity, of course, uses the Bible alone, and traditional Christianity. The LDS Church has the Bible as well as other scripture. They have the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. And some people, again, believe that that is blasphemous and makes them not real Christians. And then, of course...
although growing up Mormon kids, we did plenty of reading of the Bible. Trust me.
You betcha. Yeah. Also, LDS doctrine teaches that God has a perfected, glorified body of flesh and bone, and that humans are literally God's spirit children, Heavenly Father's spirit children. And many other Christians see that as not compatible with their traditional view of God's nature. They're just out of sync in certain ways.
The whole crucifix thing, too.
The crucifix thing. Christians typically teach, traditional Christians, that they teach salvation through grace and faith alone. But the LDS Church, they emphasize grace through Jesus Christ, but also through covenant keeping, ordinances like baptism and going to the temple, and righteous living.
Mormons really don't do grace. It is works.
It's works. Yeah. Of course, continuing revelation. A lot of traditional Christians believe that Revelation closed with the New Testament, and LDS members believe in modern prophets and ongoing revelation. So that's just a handful of the reasons why people, so when you hear people arguing that Mormons aren't Christians, these are some of the things that they don't like about Mormonism. In my opinion,
calling the Mormon Church the Antichrist sort of indicates that maybe this guy may have been coming from that camp.
Yes, it really does, because I've heard that before. In fact, just very recently, my daughter at her work, one of the guys that works with her, she told him where she was from, and he was like, "Oh, well, yeah, so there's lots of Mormons there." And she was like, "Yeah, like my best friends are all Mormon." And he was like, "Oh, well, they're not really Christians." And they had this huge conversation, and she was like, "Can you believe this shit?" And I'm like, "No, that people believe that. I've heard it lots of times. Those are things that are said." Churches don't need to fight with each other. They don't need to tear each other down. Like, this is ridiculous behavior, but that's probably an argument for a different show.
Mormons certainly
It's not true crime.
do see themselves as Christians.
They do. They certainly do.
Facts.
Yeah.
We were raised that way.
Absolutely.
They see themselves as Christians 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Yes. So, yeah. Yeah, Amy said she grew up Fundy Baptist, and they had a very limited view of real Christians. Definitely no to Mormons and even Catholics. Right. We were raised, and I know we've said this on the show before and had other LDS people come at us, so I'm going to preface this. This is what we were told as kids, is that we were told that the Catholic Church was the great and terrible whore of the earth that is referenced in the Bible. So, Mormons have done it too. But at any rate, that's it. That's what we got. You guys have any questions? Did we lay it out? We've both obviously done a shit ton of research over the last 24 hours. More than that.
It's scary,
32
man.
hours.
You have a Mormon church down the street. I have one around the corner. Like, we live right in the middle of Mormonism.
Yeah. Well, there's a huge Mormon college here in my town.
Yes. And so it is a scary thing.
Yeah.
To think that Mormon churches might be targets.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing that any church is a target.
Absolutely.
But, honestly, for us, that's a huge deal considering where we live.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. It needs to stop. This all needs to stop. I don't have the answer anymore at all. And that's probably a conversation for another show too, but my God. 4 mass shootings over the weekend that I found. There's probably more.
Probably.
But, yeah. Right. Leave others alone. Mind your own damn business. This isn't that hard.
It really isn't.
But also, can we take better care of our veterans, please? Because they are incredibly unwell.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
really, really sad. So, that is what we've got. I have a hell of a story for you guys tomorrow. It was going to be today till, all this happened, and we figured that this was probably a story that we should deep dive for obvious reasons. But we'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. for our regularly scheduled programming. We'll be back at 6 p.m. for case updates Wednesday night, and again at 3 p.m. on Thursday for our last show of the week. You'll also see Patreons coming out sometime tomorrow, so watch for that as well. It's we're winding down. September's ending. It's almost October. How in the world can that be?
Crazy.
This year has
Look at
ran
this cute
past
little
me.
baby crow I printed. She's so cute. I don't know if you can see her very good.
Oh,
Little
she's
baby
so
crow.
cute. I love her.
You know me. I already have my Halloween nails. I'm ready.
She's ready. She's here. Yes. Alrighty, guys. Well, please take good care of yourselves. Be safe. Do good things in the world. I know you do. This has been yet another production of the True Crime Squad.
Bye, everybody.
Season 6, we're back again. Kristi and Katie, your crime time friends. Stories, justice, laughs collide. True Crime Squad, come join the ride. Grab the clues, let's take a stand. For victims' voices, hand in hand. True Crime Squad, it's time to shine. Season 6, your turn, your time. True Crime Squad, where justice meets hilarity.